Today's episode is brought to you by EliteFTS.com. Founded in 1998 with the primary aim to live, learn, and pass on. Please help Elite FTS support this mission by smashing the like button, leaving a comment, sharing with a friend, and thinking of us for your training needs. If you can put it in a gym bag or load weights on it, Elite FTS has it.
What's going on? I'm Dave Tate. We are broadcasting from the middle of the Elite FTS weight room, where the underground still thrives and you're part of the crew. It's time to sit down, keep it real, and cut the bullshit. Welcome to Table Talk. All right, guys, we are back. Is everything going well on the live? They can hear us and everything's all good there. All right, I'm going to start by giving a shout out to our sponsors for the show. Our first sponsor is Element, a tasty electrolyte drink with everything that you need, with nothing that you don't. So there's no sugar, basically just all sodium and electrolytes to keep you from cramping, to keep you hydrated, all the little things that go along with that. You've heard me talk about this before. With every order that you place with them, they'll send you a free sample pack. The cool thing with the sample pack is you get to taste some of the flavors, because when I first looked at them, the chocolate kind of scared me. Actually, I think you guys heard me talk about it on the podcast, that there was no way I was going to drink chocolate water, where it ends up now being my second favorite flavor out of the pack. Now there's this jalapeno spicy one that, it's not, I don't like that one, but maybe you do, right? But you won't know that unless you get the free sample pack. So if you go to drinkelement.com, that's DRINKLMNT.com/table talk. Place your order there, then you will get the free sample pack with your order, and it helps to support the show. Appreciate you guys. The other sponsor, obviously, is EliteFTS.com. Any order that you place with EliteFTS.com, or I should rephrase that and say, your first order that you place with EliteFTS.com, use the discount code TABLETALK. You'll save 10% off your first order, which is actually not a bad deal right now, because we have a 10% site-wide store sale going on now. And now that I'm thinking about it, it's kind of fucked up, because I shouldn't be saying this. I think it's going to stack the discount. So that's EliteFTS.com, discount code Table Talk. So today my guest is Joe DeFranco. I have known Joe for longer than I probably want to say. Let me just put it this way. I was thinking about it earlier today. I've known Joe since before he had his training center, and I even had Elite FTS. That's how far back this goes.
Wow, that's right.
Yes, because when I first came down, to meet with Bill, it was about what direction I was going to go, because I was still working as a trainer.
That's right.
Right, and I didn't know exactly how or what direction to go into, so I came out to meet him just to kind of toss some ideas around, and that's when I met you and Martin. And when I was thinking the other day, I'm like, fuck.
That's crazy. Because you started Elite in 1998, right?
Yeah.
That was like 97. That's when I started at Parisi's.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I knew it, but I never thought about it.
No, I didn't either, just until later. I'm like, holy shit. It's like, now we're like almost dead. Like we're like this is like the beginning, it was like the beginning of our, professional careers, I guess you could say.
Big time, definitely.
And at least that phase, that chapter, I don't want to say beginning, because there's a lot of education at time, before that, but those different phases. So yeah, it kind of like depressed me too.
Were you doing yeah, me too, when you think it's like a lifetime ago. Did you have Elite when you did the force training seminars, or that was pre-Elite too? Because then me and Martin went to see you, but it was at Westside for what was called the force training seminars.
It was a transition time, or like right between. So I was still working as a personal trainer and then doing that kind of stuff for Louis on the side. But it's very, very, very beginning. Yeah. Kind of in there. And, but wow, what a journey. I mean, so you go from working there in a giant, sport training center into, you make this wise decision, to start your own in a closet, right?
Why not?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I remember that's because you got the rack through me. It was like, all I need is a rack and like a 0 to 90.
Yeah, rack, 0 to 90, Texas Power Bar, And of course back then it was like you had to have the glute ham and the reverse hyper.
Yeah.
Those are my 3 pieces of equipment that was that started the whole storage closet.
It was
gym.
funny because you didn't know if it was going to fit.
Yep.
Which is.
It was buy it first and make it fit. Not why would I measure the storage closet first? That would make too much sense. So I just bought the 3 pieces what I felt were essential and said we're gonna squeeze this in, whether I got to knock down a wall or what. But yeah, that's how it all started.
Oh yeah. Then after that, it moved into, was it 1 or 2 before you got into your biggest facility?
1, and then the biggest one, and then we did the minor stint in Texas with On It. But it was the storage closet, and then a 2,000 square foot warehouse, and then a 5,000 square foot warehouse.
And then from there, the next transition was the certification, which you're going to do tomorrow.
Yes.
Right, which is the CPPS.
Yeah,
right?
Certified Physical Preparation Specialist
Good
for
thing you
those who
said it, 'cause
care.
I can't. I'll try it just for humor. Physical preparation. See, I got to think.
Physical prep. We'll call it physical prep.
Physical prep specialist, right? But that kind of started a little bit in the transitional period too, though, right? So you went from the practitioner into the education.
Yes.
Coaching coaches, right?
Yeah, and that's when I just happened to. It all kind of worked out because as the online thing started to become something, and you realize like, oh, you could almost make a living online. Which it sounds weird now because that's what everyone, right? It's like this internet thing came out, and we were like, whoa, you could actually make some money on this and reach more people. That's when I happened to have kids, and we had twins, so it was very difficult, but it was kind of a natural transition because even though I lived only 15 minutes from the gym, I was never home. Like it was at the gym 24/7. I'd come home, and it's like my kids would be walking and I'd be like, whoa, when did this happen? It just, I found myself missing things even though I didn't travel a lot, but I was so engrossed in training clients, and I kind of prided myself on never canceling an appointment. Like, God forbid you take a vacation. I didn't take a vacation my first 12 years in business, didn't take a day off, never canceled an appointment. This was pre-COVID, so if you were sick, you went to work. Like nobody cared. You just coughed on everyone and shared your germs. So, it just, before my kids got to be too old, they were 2, and that's when I said, you know what, let me try. The opportunity in Texas came along with On It. I had a young trainer, Cameron Joss, who wasn't married, didn't have any real commitments in New Jersey. So he said, I'd be more than happy to go and run that for you. So that was a way for me to kind of keep a gym, have a physical location still, but not have to be there and run it every day. And then that's when I really transitioned with Smitty, and we did the certification, and we had the DeFranco Insider membership site and started selling like ebooks and programs online, and became more the, coaching coaches rather than just the technician of training athletes all day.
It's an interesting transition because it's about the same. My kids were about the same age when I went out to see Bill, right? Because I was in the gym literally from 6 in the morning until 10 at night, with the exception when I went to go train myself, and then would come back, and you realize, fuck, I'm never going to see my kids.
Yeah.
And then we have this false illusion that, well, maybe I won't have to work as much either, which you end up, it's different, right? Yeah, it's different. You end up working twice as much, but at least it's from wherever you want to work
yes,
from.
that's the only difference.
It's it's a big difference.
Yeah.
Though. Even if it is twice as much work and in some ways twice as much stress.
Yeah.
But at least you're there.
Yes. Yeah. But I'm glad you brought that up, because there's also this misconception or illusion, like, you see all these ads with like somebody working from the beach and like, oh, you could work for 2 days a week on the beach from your laptop. Yes, you can work from your laptop, and to your point, you can work wherever you want, but my hours spent on my business and working in the business at least doubled. As much as I thought I worked when I was in the gym training people, I don't know how, but somehow I ended up working way more when I went to the, kind of online thing.
Yeah, it's from the time you wake up to the time you go to
It's
bed.
nonstop.
It's constant. So that is very big false misnomer that's out there that people, especially with the online thing. But I had to laugh when you were talking about this internet thing because we're dating ourselves again, right? It's like we're going back and it's like, nah, I don't know how much of a thing this is going to be.
Yeah. I also made the brilliant mistake, or at the time I thought I'm so business savvy. I remember being one of the first ones on YouTube, and this is 2007, I think, having some videos get like 100,000 views at the time, which is like 10 million views now, insane. And then I started getting emails from YouTube saying how you could monetize your channel now and you could get paid for advertising. I thought this is the beginning of the end. I was like, this is never going to work. Like, no, and how much money can you really make? And that's when I stopped. I go, I'm not going to put any more time and effort into YouTube. This is bullshit. This is going to phase out. And then, there's 18-year-old kids now making like millions on YouTube, vlogging and freaking filming their breakfast in the morning. While here I am, year 25, still struggling to pay my bills some months.
For the longest time, we just used it for our articles. Like that, it would be the article embed to put in there. And we didn't turn the monetization on until 2018 or 2019. And it's like,
I didn't realize you waited that long.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Because I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want fucking ads on my shit. I don't want this stuff because it's the article. You see, I was seeing it all as the article.
Yeah.
Like, this is a piece that goes in the article. I don't give a shit what happens over there. What I care about what happens here is how does it bleed into the article. So we just throw the shit up there. And it took a while, because it's like, nah. Then it was like, well, maybe we should, monetize it. And we've both been around a long fucking time. Content changed.
Yes.
Which is, hell, this is a whole conversation here where, it went from books, then to articles and text, and it still should be books, by the way, guys. But anyhow, articles.
Agreed.
And text. And then, it moved from that because we were big in articles, blogs, training logs, and you were part of the Q&A and all that stuff for a long period of time. Text-based stuff. Then social media hits and like, boom, there goes the Q&A. Yeah. Boom, there goes the training logs. Then the articles, they're still doing okay, but not to the same degree. Then it pivoted to being video, digital. And from a content perspective, that also pivots your cost.
Yeah.
Right, because now you need people to film shit. Then you need film editors, not as many text editors, but film. So it's a whole different world.
That's even. I do some consulting for younger gym owners trying to get started. I get a lot of guys that are coming to me and because I started in the 500 square foot storage closet. They come to me as like the guy who, knows how to help the people that don't have a lot of money, don't have a lot of space. And it's funny because when they get to the point where they want to hire their first employee, it used to be, someone to help with your scheduling, someone to work at the front desk, or another trainer to help take some of the training load off you so you could work more on the business, where now 9 out of 10, the first hire is a videographer. It's someone to follow them around and film everything so they could get it on YouTube and social media and get it. That's changed a lot.
Do you agree with that though?
Yes and no. It depends on where you want to go with your business. I think if you have a brick and mortar gym, like if I'm in Bergen County, New Jersey, and I want more clients to come to my gym, it's not as important to be, Instagram famous, because who gives a shit if you have 500,000 followers if 20 of them are from New Jersey or within driving distance? Like, who gives a shit? Like, that's not gonna translate into any business for you anyway. It might stroke your ego a little bit, but you need to figure out ways to improve your actual business. It's funny because I'll meet people that are well known throughout the world, but people in their own town don't know that they have a gym there. So in that respect, no. But if you're someone who wants to capitalize on your YouTube and you want to become a YouTuber in the fitness industry, which isn't really my style, but if that's what your thing is, then maybe a videographer is going to be more important than you.
The reason I ask is I've seen the same thing that you have. I've seen people that have large followings, but then even if I ask them how many online clients or how many clients they have, it's under a handful. Yeah. And it's like, well, what is the point of all your content marketing if you only have 5 clients?
Exactly.
you know.
And then you have the opposite where there's like rock star trainers that are killing it and their gym's packed every hour and they have, 300 followers on Instagram, but their gym is killing it. So you need to define what your business is and how you're going to make money. And I still feel it's important to do what you love. Like, obviously there's always going to be aspects of the business that are going to be stressful and it's not all fun and games, but if you are, I still enjoy training and coaching. So like I try to revolve my business around where I'm still, I don't want to do it 15 hours a day anymore, but I still really enjoy doing it. So I keep my clients and we have the certification. So we get to coach coaches, but you need to define that yourself and then kind of, then come up with your business plan as opposed to just kind of following what everyone else does. Or you think, well, everyone's on TikTok now, so I got to get on TikTok. Well, if you're trying to run a brick and mortar gym, there might be better ways of getting people to walk into your physical door than making TikTok videos.
Do you have a way or a process to, because I'm sure people have come up to you and they don't, because you said you have to define what you want your business to be, that they've come up to you and you can, they don't know that. Right?
Yeah.
Do you have a way that you kind of help guide them to figure that out?
And I don't know if this is how I did it. I still like to ask the question, if money were no object, if all your bills were taken care of, you didn't have a care in the world, what would you like to do? Since they're in this industry, generally they're like health and fitness workout people. What do you enjoy most? Is it making videos? Is it making content online? Is it physically training people, coaching people, helping people? Define that. And then that's how, what was the question again?
Well, how to help them define exactly what their business
So
would
that's
be.
what I would do is whatever that would be my advice. Whatever that thing is for you, what would you like to do if money was no object? If you won the lottery and you didn't want to sit on your ass for the rest of your life, what would you do? What makes you happy? Revolve your business around that. And that's how I found my answer. For me, it was coaching and training people. And, here I am 25 years later after getting in the business. Like I said, I don't do it as much, but I still have clients. I'm still writing programs. I'm still coaching.
But with both of us, the direction since we first met, the passion's still the same, of what we started with.
Yeah.
It's just the path is a little different than when it started. So to reiterate the point that you're making is that when you know exactly what you want to do, what business that you want to be in and what you really, really love to do, the way you do it will change. Right? So it could be digital, it could be text, it could be online, it could be in person, it could be whatever. But if you have a good solid anchor on what that is, then I think a lot of those other decisions, like should I go online, for instance, or whatever, the 3 different big steps that you've had, your passion didn't change. Just the way you did it did.
Exactly.
And I think that's where a lot of people screw up, is they don't take the time to really dial that in. So then every time they have to change because the world changes, then they're fucked, because there's they don't.
Yeah, they don't have that identity. They're always doing something different, where to your point, we might be doing different things, but it's still revolving around that initial passion that got us into this industry.
Yes. And then that will continue to keep changing. Because if you don't, you're gonna go out of business. Yep. It's just kind of.
And how many people that we're talking about meeting back in 1997, 1998? Like, how many people do we personally know that are out?
It's easier to count the ones we know that are still
way
in.
more.
You see what I'm saying? Way more. I don't want to throw names out, but if we sat here and talked, we could probably come up with less than 10.
Yes.
That are still in.
Yeah, it's
out
scary.
Of,
countless. So we wouldn't be able to count.
Yeah, and I think the reasons for that are, they didn't have a well-established vision, right? They chased the dollar, as you were talking about, and there's nothing wrong with that, as long as the money that you catch in the first 3 or 4 years will last the rest of your life, which doesn't happen.
We all wish it did, but it doesn't. And that was something, we all certainly need to make money, make a living, especially once you have a family and kids and even more responsibility than yourself. And that was something I struggled with in the beginning was, which is a weird thing, and I don't even know if I have a point, but just to bring it up because I think it's an interesting conversation, because I see a lot, I don't know if you've seen it as well, in this industry, you get a lot of passionate people that, you know, they love fitness, they love health, they love helping people, but then they almost feel guilty, like, oh, but I don't want to ask for money, you know, and I've told stories where at like the peak of DeFranco's gym, when I had my big gym and it was packed, and I mean there's Lamborghinis in the parking lot and fancy cars and pro athletes, and you know everyone would think this is like I'm the poster child for success in the gym business. And there were months at that point where I was like struggling to pay my rent, well-known, insane clientele, but the amount of people that I let train for free because I felt bad. Oh, this kid's parents just got divorced. They can't afford it. Let me help him out. This guy forgot to bring his, you know, and I'm all for helping people. Like to this day, I do stuff for free, but there's got to be, like anything else, like the answer lies somewhere in the middle. You can't be too much, can't be, you don't want to be a dick that's always, you know, charging for every little thing. But I think it's an interesting conversation because for some reason in our industry, I've just met so many people that are really good. Like they're great people, they're great coaches, but they feel bad charging or raising their prices. And I went through that, you know, I went through that too. And I think people were shocked when I told them, like, when you were following me and you thought I was like the poster child for success, you don't know, like I had some rough months in there. Because you think you're being a nice guy, but in the end, you're just hurting yourself. And if I go out of business, now you can't help all those people. So everyone loses, you know?
Yeah, there's a balance, and it's a weird industry just to begin with. Where, you know, I've always kind of joked around and said that, you know, in the porn industry, you can at least, you see somebody's getting fucked, right? And, you know, the investment industry, you kind of know you're going to get fucked. So but in the fitness industry, you don't know you're getting fucked until you're fucked. Right? It's just true. It's just kind of how it is, to where nothing is as it's perceived. You know, and that and I'm all for giving back. I mean, it's the mission of the live, learn, pass on, but it kills your margins. You know, you know, it's why we have sponsors for the podcast. It's why we have things now, because you can't, if you keep scaling up, you know, then I can't put out any content. Yeah. You know, and that was one of the lessons I kind of learned during 2020 was, you know, when, you know, things are getting all fucked up all over the place for all kinds of different reasons, it's all of a sudden it's like, holy shit. You know, if I have to just rely on content, there is no content. Zero, none. You know, and the product sales weren't able to pay for it all. It's like, oh shit. You know, learning lesson here. Yeah. You know, maybe we should monetize the YouTube. Maybe we should find sponsors for the podcast. Maybe we should find products like limited edition apparel to help support the podcast, you know, and all those other things, because when people see free, they don't see the price it costs to produce free. You know, they don't see the 7 staff members or 5 staff members that go into producing that. Yeah. They just see. Now, some do. Some do.
But that's few and far between, too, compared to the ones that don't, and they just see free.
Yes. So when it's when it's those people that you're speaking about, that's all they're doing, that's all they're doing, I think they need to understand that you can do that, but you won't do it for long. Then you're not helping anybody. You know, so you have to find this balance. You know, but now on the other end, you know, the people that just, you know, charge, you know, do nothing, you know, put nothing out, you know, well, then that's probably not the answer either. As you said, it's somewhere kind of there.
It comes down to the balance, like you said, because that's when it hit me. Like, if I keep going this route, you're a great guy and you're helping a lot of people, but if you go out of business, you're helping no one. Now, this place that they all love to come, whether it's after school or whatever, if this isn't here, and I'm not in this industry anymore because I got to go find myself, you know, a real job that pays me, then you're not helping anyone. And that was it seems so simple, but like I didn't see it at the time until you have a couple of those months pile up, you know, on top of each other. You go, okay, I got to make some changes.
Yeah, and the weird thing with that too is on the customer side, right? You'll have some people that I don't want to say they expect everything for free. I don't know how to phrase it. I think everybody knows what I'm talking about. But then I'm sure that you had other clients come in and they're paying with nickels and dimes and quarters. So and you feel bad for them, but they don't want anything.
Yes.
They want to pay it.
Yeah.
Where on the other side, you'll have people that are well off.
And those are the ones that want the,
it's just the fucked up.
It's funny you bring that up because the Cameron Joss, who I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, who ran when we were with On It, who ran the Texas facility, he started with me as a client, a high school sophomore, who, his parents were separated and, his mom wasn't paying for him couldn't afford to pay for, just a personal trainer on the side, but he wanted to train and get better for football so bad. He got a job at Dunkin' Donuts and literally brought his whole paycheck in to pay for his training with me. And he did that through high school and turned out to have, incredible high school football career, like really got better, ended up playing football in college, came back, interned, and now ended up working at DeFranco's, now he's who I feel one of the best coaches in the world. He ran the Texas facility, came back, worked at my private facility. Now he's with Indiana, assistant strength and conditioning coach with the Indiana football program. But he's like the perfect example of someone who didn't expect anything, didn't feel like, I'm entitled, my parents aren't paying for it, so just train me for free. Like that kid came in literally with change and, Dunkin' Donuts money to pay. And I think it's also no coincidence that he's now successful in life, because that type of attitude, that type of mentality, I'm not going to expect anything from anyone. I'm going to, take charge. It's nobody else's fault. I'm going to, put my life in my own hands. And he did that. And now he's super successful, doing awesome coaching, well-respected, well-known. And I really believe it's those values, that built the foundation for that.
I would agree.
Yeah.
How many, with the industrial strength podcast, right? How many episodes are you at now? Do you know?
Yeah, I'm at 380, approaching 390.
390. All right. So this is more of a personal question that I have more than it's a podcast question, because I'm not gonna bullshit anybody. I really didn't start really taking the podcast thing that serious until this season, season 3, right? And you learn a lot speaking to different people, right? I mean, so much so I don't even know where to begin. Like if somebody said, "What's the number one thing?" I'm not going to ask you that, right? But there's a lot of observations. The more people that you speak to, what are some of them that pop up in your head? Just not like the biggest observation about the industry or whatever it is, but just some of the things that before you were podcasting and speaking to all these different coaches and, and trainers and athletes and stuff like that, that you can sit back now and kind of say, yeah, I always thought that was true, but it is, or I didn't think this was true, and it is.
Right off the top of my head, since we were just talking about it, I do think that because I've only my show started as more of just like a one-man show. It was me answering. It was like a Q&A. I basically brought my old Q&A to life, on audio. So I wasn't really planning on having guests. And then you just got kind of sick of talking to myself after, a couple episodes. And then it's, talking to yourself for an hour and a half each day. It gets to get sick of your own voice. But then, so I only reached out to, people like yourself and like people that I really respect in the industry. And so I haven't had any like negative observations because it's just a small handful of people that I really look up to and respect or, consider colleagues of mine. But with so much bullshit and so many, all the bad information on social media with like the fitness influencer age that we're in, I feel like the people I talk to, are very similar to the story I just mentioned with Cam, where with all the bullshit that's gone on and there's 18-year-olds making more money than us from doing a stupid vlog. Like those who got in it for the right reasons are still in it, and they're the ones that don't make excuses or don't rely on other people or like blame social media or blame the politics, the president.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like they kind of take the bull by the horns, and they're all people that are very self-sufficient and not reliant on or not making excuses for all the bullshit. Not, COVID screwed us all, but like but instead of, I know a lot of people that blamed, and a lot of people that was a shitty situation, and it did suck for many, but the ones that I've had on my podcast kind of make it through those tough times because they just have that tunnel vision of, I'm responsible for my own career. I'm responsible for my own life. I will make it work. I'm not going to blame COVID. I'm not going to blame politics. I'm not going to blame TikTok. Like, I'm in charge of my life, and nobody's going to, hold me back. Nobody's going to prevent me from achieving my goals, type of thing. And it kind of a cliche answer, but I haven't had any like guests that I'm not familiar with. So it's all people that I know and respect. Have been in the industry so long. Not that they haven't made mistakes.
No,
but
they've made mistakes.
Kind of done it the right way and weathered the storm, so to speak. You know,
those are kind of some of the same things I'm seeing because I'm bringing in somebody that I know is going to full of shit. But what I'm noticing is kind of the same things that you're talking about. Is they're not so concerned with what so and so is doing, or sitting there thinking, well, so and so is making X, 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 and X. Because after you're in it for a while, you find out so and so is not making X, 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 and X.
You don't believe everything you read or hear.
No, they're more head down, driven. Here's what's going to be, and it reminds me because I did an AMA on my Instagram. My days so run together anymore. It's unfucking believable. Last night, and somebody asked me about adversity. And it's weird because how do you handle anxiety? How do you handle adversity? And you really don't know how to answer that. Like, especially when it's online. And my answer to it is just put my fucking head down and go in it, because, and we'll talk about aging in this industry as well. But if the way that I see it, I'm not a therapist or any shit like that, is worse shit is going to happen to me. Before I die, worse things are going to happen, way worse things that have already happened.
Yeah.
All the things that have happened to me up until this point were to help prepare me for those worst things that are going to happen. Because as I look back, as you look, say in business or whatever it was, all those bad things make it easier for you to take the next punch in the face, because actually when you look back, it's like that punch you thought you took, that was just a little cheek slap. That was fucking nothing, right? But what if you avoided that? You avoided all them little cheap, if you avoided all of that and then wham, you get hit with that huge one because you spent your whole life trying to avoid, all the bad shit, or not leaning into it, running away from it. And I don't even know what I'm trying to fucking say here, but I think you get what I'm saying.
No, for me, with the whole anxiety thing and like comparing yourself to other people and all, the term or the phrase that I always comes to my head is action alleviates anxiety. Like, I'm the same way. If something's worrying me, or like the whole COVID thing you're hearing about, gyms going out of business and everyone's going to go out of business. Yes, if I just sat there and thought about it and worried, well, what if it happens to me? What if I can't pay my bills? I got 2 kids. What are they going to do? Where's my next paycheck going to come from? Instead, put your head down and what can I control? Like, if I'm sitting home worrying and thinking about it, yes, the anxiety is going to get way worse, but action always alleviates it for me. So you wake up first thing in the morning and you get to work. Like, what is it? We moved our cert from, before COVID, it was in person. We weren't doing much online. COVID happened. Nobody could travel. People were scared to travel. Okay, let's get to work. What action are we going to take? Okay, let's refilm the modules and let's put them online. And like, just focusing on doing the things that you could control, keeping busy, and not just busy to be busy, but productive busy, working on things that are kind of moving the chains. That works wonders for me with regards to anxiety or like worrying about the future. I think it's important you want to have a little bit of an idea of where you want to be maybe in a year or 5 years from now, but I don't focus too much time on like my 5-year, 10-year plan, because I always felt if I put my head down and go to work and do everything I need to do today 110%, those days start to build up and then good shit starts to happen. As opposed to, I know a lot of people who have these perfect business plans and they got the next 20 years mapped out. But I'm like, but you're not doing anything. You're freaking talking about all this shit.
Yeah.
Like, you do go kick today's ass. Don't tell me about the shit you're going to do. And that's always helped me just keep moving. You know?
And I think we're all paranoid, right? Every day. I mean, every day we think we're going to go out of business. So, I mean, that's normal, right? And so the paranoia is there. It's all there, but you can't sit there and just worry about it and not do anything. It's got to be like, fuck, okay, now what are the options? As you said, what can you control? What can I control? I can control these. Let's do this, this, and this. Yeah. Well, this, and this didn't work. So now I got to try that, and that. You know, you just got to keep kind of pivoting, and that's life, right? Yeah. I mean, that starts before your first move to the closet. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It was like, okay, you know, pivot. Fuck, what am I going to do? I don't know, but I can try this, and this.
And I was same thing. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't shitting my pants. Like, I'm going from a steady paycheck. I've established a name and a reputation at this well-known facility. Now I'm in a literal storage closet in the basement of a gym that not too many people know about. Like, of course I was worried as hell. But to your point, you wake up, you're worried, and you're worried for freaking 20 seconds, and then you go, okay, let's get to work. Put your head down and let's action. I got to keep moving the chains. And it's kind of like days piled up.
It's kind of like training, right? 90% of the training we do probably doesn't do shit for us, right? But the 10% that does works really well. So in business or anything, 90% of the shit that we do probably isn't going to help us at all. Yeah. But how do you get the 10% that does? By doing the 90%.
By doing shit, yes. By doing shit.
Yes.
Something to be said about just going and doing shit.
Exactly. With your own training, it's because you've had shoulder surgery and, your back issue going way back in there. How have you managed, I don't want to say, this sounds so cliche, getting older but still being a fucking meathead? I mean, it is what the question is. I don't know how to frame it any different.
I totally get it. I get it, because there is really no way. Same thing. Obviously, my training has changed a lot from what it was 15, 20 years ago, even 5 years ago. But for me, first of all, while it sucks, shoulder surgery, back issues, back surgeries, experimental procedures, like, as like waking up in pain sucks. But for me, I've been training myself now 36 years. I'm 47. I started at 11, and I'm coaching others for 25. So the good part of that, like, parts of getting old suck, but there's also parts that you can't replace that type of experience. Both training myself or all the lessons I've learned training so many other people from so many different walks of life, all that has helped me to train smarter now. I think most people, especially in our shoes with all the injuries and surgeries we have combined, if they didn't have our knowledge and experience, they just kind of had our body, they wouldn't even be able, they would think they'd be that guy on the couch taking painkillers and saying, I have a bad back, I have a bad shoulder, I can't work out. So I tried, I'm a glass half full guy. I try to put a positive spin on the aging thing and say, well, I'm way more knowledgeable and way more experienced than I was 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. What are the things that are going to kind of break my body down and prevent me from training the rest of my life? And what are the things that I need to change that will help me? I want to do this until, I'm in a box 6 feet under. So, like, if you want, like, so if you're asking, like, some of the specific changes I've made in my training, one which I thought I would never do, we talked about this when you were on my podcast, not using the straight bar year round. Like, while it is the king of all pieces of equipment, we learn to lift, using a barbell. I'm not anti barbell, but for me, a straight bar bench kills my shoulder still. A barbell back squat, a straight bar deadlift, from my body type and all the injuries and surgeries I've had, they break my body down more than it builds it up. So instead of being while I am a meathead, being a complete idiot meathead and just doing shit that hurts repeatedly, I still train those patterns. I will train, a upper body push, a lower body hinge, a lower body squat, but I'm not doing it with a straight bar. That's number one. I have a rule for myself now, never train through pain. If it's a bad pain, obviously, you got to know the difference, and a little, things aren't always going to be 100% comfortable, but this stuff that hurts, that 10 years ago it was, you throw some blue heat on it and you just keep training. I don't, it's just stupid. It's not cool. It's not tough, because you get through the workout and then I got to take 3 months off. It's just not worth it. So never train through pain. With that, the straight bar I've removed, not completely, but I've learned that there's no mandatory exercises. Like, as simple as that sounds, it's crazy. Like, there is something just inherently in all of us meatheads, where I came from, a strength background and learning from guys like you and Louie and taking more powerlifting type methods and using them for my athletes. So I started every upper body workout started with a bench press variation, lower body workout started with the barbell squat or deadlift variation. And that's what I did forever. And it worked great with young, healthy athletes. For myself, I've learned now there's no mandatory exercises. For my goals, yes, I want to be strong. I want to pack on a little bit more muscle. But I want to be healthy and feel good as well. So what does it matter if I do a freaking straight bar bench or a dumbbell bench or a weighted push-up? So that's another big one. The main lift, I still like to incorporate at least 1 or 2 heavy lifts in my workout. Instead of trying to max out on every single exercise, I will have one main lift that I would always place at the beginning of my workout, because that was the rule. You do the heaviest or fastest movement first. Now I've kind of borrowed more from the bodybuilding approach, and the main lift gets placed more towards the middle or end of the workout. When I'm sweating, I got a good pump, I'm fully warmed up. That has made a huge difference for me as well. And a lot more. I've always programmed unilateral stuff for my clients and my athletes. That was big from day one with the West Side for Skinny Bastards and all those early programs. But in my own training, I make sure to keep like unilateral upper and lower body exercises present. And while I do incorporate partial range stuff, I always make sure it's in conjunction with full range movements. Like, if I'm going to do a partial range lower body movement, I might follow it up with like a deficit Bulgarian split squat, just so I keep the mobility, because my body wants to be, I think it's just, there's definitely a genetic component to it. Like, my dad has zero mobility. His muscles are like the consistency of a cinder block. And, it's affected him later on in life. So I'm very, very conscious to make sure I'm improving my mobility within my strength training workouts as well. So those are some of like the main things that weren't as important to me maybe 5-10 years ago.
I'm going to echo on the one that you just said, because last week I just completed, it's a event I call it Train Your Ass Off. It's 4 people I take through clinics. And one of the things I push really, really hard with these people is and most of them are really heavy strength oriented, right, is a lot of the really heavy strength oriented movements, even the bench press, right, and a back squat. Like, I hate saying back squat.
Yeah, I know. I do it too.
And when you look at them from that powerlifting sphere, they're all partial range motions, right? Then you got board presses, floor presses. I mean, most of that big strength building is partial range stuff, which I truly believe needs to be in there. But at what point in time are you actually taking that muscle through its full length, right? So a lot of that is, showing them, okay, now after you do the heavy bench or the board jam press, whatever that's going to be, finish with, maybe cable tricep extensions, and just get way, way back into that end range where you're really fucking weak.
Yeah.
Keep it light, do some loaded stretching, just work that through the whole range. Even with the squat, if it's me and it's fucking pathetic, just grab a rack post and sit as low as you can and keep a neutral spine. And over time, you'll be able to get it. Just do body weight shit.
Yeah.
And the way I try to explain it is act like all the short, and this is not scientifically based. This is just meathead fucking gym bro shit. Act like all the short range shit is making it the spring like all here, right? And if it all stays in there, it's just going to break unless you actually do something to open it back up before you leave. Makes sense to me, right?
Yeah.
For the same reasons that you're talking about too, because I'm trying to, as fucked up as I am, to not be more fucked up.
Yeah, that's just that you could control that you're fucked up,
so.
but you have more control over not fucking yourself up more.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. Like you should do everything in your power not to fuck yourself
Yes.
up more. So then you do less and less. And again, I just see my dad's 75, and you think when you're younger, like, who cares? His mind is this, like he misses training so bad he can't do anything. And he replaced hips,
Yeah.
replaced shoulders. He's got the ankylosing spondylitis, where it's total arthritis throughout your entire spine, the whole deal, and just can't do anything. And it's like mentally, it's freaking killing him. And that's what I always think of. Like, don't think, who cares about 10 years from now, 20 years from now?
Yeah.
If we make it that far, you're gonna want to train just as bad as you do now. And like for a lot of us, where it's our therapy, you take that away for the last 20 years of your life. Like that's way more detrimental than maybe not doing a few things that you might like, but they're going to do more damage to your body right now.
Well, what would be the potential negative of what we're talking about? You get what I'm saying? It's like if the weight's light, it's not like it's going to overtrain you.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
If it is, then you're an idiot. So it's what about the earlier you mentioned with the longevity health, right? So how do you define that? When you say I want to be healthy, what does that mean to you?
For me, it's where I used to look at it. It was just, I guess a way that I look at it is I used to kind of get all my health and fitness from one activity. Lifting is what I feel is if you had to come up with one single best form of exercise, strength training would be it. But if we're talking about what's optimal, it's probably not optimal to try to get all of your health and fitness from just one form of exercise. I used to, and I bought into like, well, don't do cardio because it's going to take away all your gains. You're not going to have any muscle, all this stuff. Where now I get blood work done every 3 to 4 months. And, there's people that could go over, what are maybe the top 7 to 10 health markers for guys our age. But I base my health on blood work, certain markers in my blood work, but also how I feel, and not just from how do I look in the mirror and how strong am I? Like, I want to be able to go kick the soccer ball around with my kids and not feel like I'm about to have a heart attack. I want to be able to, coach and play and do things that dads should be able to do. So that's very important to me. It's not so much about just looking good and being strong. That's still definitely part of it, but is what I'm doing workout wise making my everyday life easier, as opposed to taking away from it, which sounds stupid, but my strength training workouts used to take away from my everyday activities, because I would just beat the shit out of myself, wake up the next day, be sore as hell, can't move, can't walk up a flight of stairs, and like you're just miserable. And I do think there's something to be said about pushing yourself and training, and there's a time and a place for that. At 47, those type of workouts they're sprinkled in occasionally throughout the year. Now, I want these strength training efforts to carry over to things I'm doing in my everyday life. But I also want to have the cardiovascular fitness to be able to play with my kids without, having to, sit down and take a time out. And so I'm measuring more than just strength levels. It's more strength, cardiovascular, mobility. As stupid as it sounds, if I don't stay up to date with my mobility routine, and if I'm not incorporating full range exercises in my strength training with my back issues, like I'll have trouble putting my socks on in the morning. So I sound like a really old dude, but when I could wake up and there's no restriction, I could put my socks on easily, and I could go play soccer with my kids for 2 hours and be like, holy shit, I felt great. They got tired before me. Like, my one daughter tried to challenge me to race her when we were on vacation this year, and like I still want to be able to beat her ass at freaking, not on my 11-year-old, beating me in a sprint. So it's an overall, like, is my everyday life easier and better because of my efforts in the gym, on the treadmill, or, now it's not just lifting, it's cardiovascular, it's mobility, it's more of a combination. I'm not trying to get all of my quote unquote fitness just from meathead strength training.
Yeah, I kind of define it the same way, but I still do meathead shit that will probably pull away a little bit because it's just who I am.
Yeah.
But my definition of health over the years has substantially changed because of the blood work that you're talking about. I guess I can pimp out mecca.com, right? So
there you go.
Layup
right there.
mecca.com, guys. It's one of the sponsors of the podcast. They help with the blood work. You can have your custom panels done through one of their practitioners to be able to walk you through the program. They also have a table talk panel, which is already set up for you. The link is in the description, americhealth.com/table talk. Anyhow, now with that being said, there is a benefit here where I've always had blood work done since I first came to Westside back when we first met. And it was fine. I mean, I'm young, right? You can get away with a lot of shit, right? But then it wasn't fine, and as I've gotten older, I found that if I want to keep doing the stupid shit that I love to do, which is far less than what it used to be, I have to learn how to train to cycle it in, like you said, sprinkle it in there. I also have to make sure my blood profile is good because things get whacked. They do over as we get older. Fucking things get whacked for no fucking reason too.
Yes.
Just out of nowhere, what the fuck is this? And there are, and there's ways to mitigate it through hormones and, the people who are abusing hormones, there's a way to mitigate side effects there too. But the blood panel's huge. For me, it's quarterly, and it's been huge for a long time, even before Merrick. Merrick is just really, really, really fucking good at what they do with that. Because for most people, what are their doctors going to tell them? You know how that goes.
Yeah, my nutritionist used to say the generic blood work that your regular doctor orders is about as beneficial as a screen door on a submarine.
Exactly. It's just
your cholesterol and 2 other things. It's a joke.
It's bad. And I would put my blood pressure, checking the blood pressure in there, as being.
I started that as well.
And
speaking of things, not to cut you off, but speaking of things that pop up out of nowhere, I had that out of 3-4 months ago, all of a sudden, and meanwhile I'm lighter, I'm leaner, I'm doing all the so-called right things. Freaking blood pressure's through the roof. I have no idea why, and still don't. But doing things like more, making cardiovascular fitness more of a priority than just an afterthought. Not eating not overeating the sugar and late night It's funny, back in the day, if I binged or something or overate at night, it'd be more about, worrying about how you look the next morning. Yeah. Now it's more about, is it fucking up my blood work? How do I feel? Where's am I pre-diabetic now? What's my blood sugar levels? It's more about what's going on internally. I kind of worry about. So that's why I'm more of a well-rounded approach with strength, cardio, mobility, nutrition, getting the blood work done. So what's going on inside your body. Because sometimes feeling good is very important, obviously, but sometimes you could feel totally normal and there's something going on that you would never know if you didn't get those blood panels done.
Yes, and the resting heart rate's another one that I'll check.
Huge.
Because those are, and I think when we were talking about, stress earlier, when you look at it kind of the way that I do, that you just, sometimes this shit just goes up. You don't feel like you're stressed, but you are. I mean, nothing feels normal. You're still working the same way, but you're like, man, maybe I ought to take my blood pressure. Oh, fuck. Maybe I need to just chill out for a minute, go for a walk, mitigate it and bring it back down. And it was way easier to know when it was high, when I was super fat and taking tons of shit. Cause it was, you know what I'm saying? You just couldn't breathe. It's a little bit different.
A little more obvious.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, as you get older, you're not doing the same things, as you were, that I was, then. So you're not pushing the envelope, right? It's just a little envelope. So you don't see it. You don't feel it as much, where before it's like, fuck it, this is good, I'm purple. Now, I mean, purple will be dead. You know what I'm saying? So now it's, you got to catch that little bump in the road. And the only way you're going to catch it is by looking for it. Because a lot of times you won't, like you said with your blood pressure, you're not going to see it. You're just going to feel weird.
Yeah.
And if you keep blowing that off over a period of time, it's going to feel real weird.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I mean,
It's funny you mentioned the stress thing, because I'm someone who I do genuinely love what I do. Like I am excited to wake up in the morning, and like a lot of the projects we got going on, I genuinely enjoy them. But we talked about having your own business.
Yes.
It's not all fun and games, and there's a lot of stress to it. I'm not a guy that walks around like stressed and angry, so I don't think I'm stressed. But the blood pressure thing, it was funny. I'm doing a lot more like zone 2 cardio and like physical workout stuff that I've changed that are making a difference, a pretty dramatic difference. But more so than even that, and this wasn't even planned. It was at the end of the summer. My wife was bringing the kids down to the Jersey Shore for the day. She's like, "Oh, we're going to the beach for the day. Come, you want to come?" I usually never go. Now I'm going to work. And not like the show Jersey Shore where they're out drinking and partying.
Just keep going.
We're just to go lay on the beach. We lay on the beach all day, chill out, lay on the beach all day, don't think anything of it, come home. I was like, oh shit. And that was when I was in the middle of this like blood pressure scare where my blood pressure's through the roof for no reason. I was, oh shit, I forgot to take my blood pressure this morning. Let me take it now. It was like 118/70. Like it was the lowest it's been in my life after a day on the beach. And I was like, it never hit me that maybe I am a little more stressed from work because I like what I do. I like designing programs and doing the certification. It's still work, and we still have deadlines, and the phone's going off all day, and I don't sleep, great.
Yeah.
And if I didn't to your point, if I didn't check the blood pressure and see that correlation between the day on the beach did more than like, I'm doing this zone 2 cardio, keeping my heart rate at this perfect. Yes. I'm doing everything right cardiovascularly, and laying on the beach for a day helped 10 times better than any of that. Yeah. Like maybe the stress has more to do than anything I'm eating or, doing, or, the things that I was placing the blame on. They probably all contribute a little bit, but it wasn't as much as this kind of hidden stress that a lot of us have in this industry. But I think we don't give it enough credit or don't realize it, because we do love being in the gym, and we love a lot of what we do,
right? Because you think you don't have, you need the break, but you don't want the break. Mm-hmm. But you don't understand that if you take the break, you're going to be more refreshed when you come back, but yet you can't take the break. I live in that world. It's
Me too.
Well, and for me, training kind of is part of that, right? Because when I go in to train, I am away. It is kind of a break now, not long enough.
Yeah.
And it's also increasing cortisol and doing all this other shit, which isn't really a break. But so I'm just fucking bullshitting myself.
That's the tough thing is the type of training you especially, that's what I had to learn too. Is like my outlet or my way of working out, and my how I'm getting all my health and fitness is going to the gym, which is great. But that's the thing that people don't talk about. Yes, strength training, we could list 101 benefits of it, but you take it to the extreme, and like the anger and the aggression and the heavy lifting, sometimes that's not going to rectify the problem. It could contribute to it. And that's where I don't like it as much, but we call it at the Smitty uses the term soft work, like hard work versus soft work. The soft work in our certification, we talk about things like breathing, a mobility routine, going for a morning walk, like all the stuff that we kind of made fun of back in the day, but it has benefit. For me, the zone 2 cardio has been extremely beneficial. I do it religiously now, 2 to 3 days a week, 45 to 60 minutes. It has helped, but I'm not like, oh, zone 2 cardio today. I'm going to be on the elliptical for 60 minutes.
Can you define that for the people listening so they just kind of know what you're talking about?
So just basically it's kind of like the highest end of aerobic training. You're staying aerobic, but at the highest level of intensity while still being low intensity. Yeah. So for me, I'm keeping my heart at 47 years old. I'm keeping my heart rate between 120 and 140. And this is the type of training I never got. Mm-hmm. I strength trained, and the little bit of cardio I did, I played football my whole life. And if I sprinkled in some cardio post-football career, it was all HIIT training, high intensity stuff. I never did the longer duration steady state type of cardio, especially a walk here and there, but not, now I've gotten in good enough shape where like I got to work pretty hard to get my heart rate up to 125, 130, and then sustain. I'd never sustained it that long. Like now I'm keeping it there for, 45, 50 minutes, but so that's one of the keys. You want to sustain that for minimum. I found 30 minutes, but probably even more beneficial 45 to 60, because your heart adapts differently. Strength training and higher intensity activities, you hear about this a lot with like bodybuilders and lifters. They have very thick hearts, which isn't a bad thing. Anything to the extreme, yes, could be too much, but a thicker, stronger heart is fine. But you want to do some of that longer duration stuff that stretches the heart out, because that's the stuff that's going to decrease your blood pressure, decrease your resting heart rate. Your heart will pump out more blood with each beat and improve circulation. And that type of cardiovascular fitness, I never spent any time doing. That was the stuff that was going to take away from my gains, so I never did it. Once I started doing that, blood pressure came down, resting heart rate came down, just feel better generally. But I still, if I'm being honest, I don't love, like, it's still like, oh shit, it's zone 2 cardio day. I look forward to going to the gym, but it's the shit that I don't like doing that has had probably a bigger, better impact on my health at this point. So it's the combination. I guess the point being, again, don't try to get all your health and fitness from one form of physical activity. Like, especially as you age, you want to try to be a little bit more rounded if longevity is the goal.
A couple things that you said is I wrote notes because I have to bring these back because this is funny as hell. When I was one of my, because I've dieted down and got fat, it's not a mystery. I've done this several times, right? One of the times when I was doing a lot of the steady state cardio, I don't know if it was with Meadows or with Shelby or whatever it was, Eric Serrano is my doctor, so I see him quarterly for the blood work and all the other stuff I was doing. And I remember this one time, because I was hitting like 45 minutes on the treadmill, and it was an incline, and it's like, I'm speaking to him, and he's like, asking me, how do you train? What are you doing? I'm like, I don't fucking understand this. It's so hard for me now to get my heart rate up. So what's wrong? Right? And he looked at me like I'm a fucking idiot, and he's like, what are you asking? I'm like, I'm doing the same pace, the same thing over and over again, and now I can't even get my heart rate where it's supposed to be. And he's like, you adapt, right? And it's like, oh, I'm a fucking idiot. Like, I was so far removed from my personal trainer days.
Yep.
And at the same time, I'm like, well, this sucks, because I had to walk like 3.2 miles per hour to be right where I was. Not hard.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, no, wait a minute. Fuck this. This is going to suck.
Yeah. And it's so funny though, like you said you're removed from your personal trainer days, but I also think it's like being removed from the gym. Your body, lifting weights, your body adapts. They get
I know.
But put me on a treadmill, and my brain doesn't, it doesn't know how to work.
As soon as he said it, I'm like, I don't believe I just asked you this question.
Yeah,
I really don't. And then earlier when you said the Jersey Shore, it took me back to when I had this.
I know what you're gonna say already.
Christ. That I had this brilliant idea to bring Joe, Jason Ferrugia, Alan Cosgrove, and Jim Wendler together, and
what a crew.
Yeah, and it was a good idea, like that.
Fun time.
Yeah, I mean, my idea was we knew the strength coaching market. I didn't really know the personal, what you were doing, the strength and conditioning market at that personal level, like, and I knew that was a bigger market. I'm like, how in the fuck? Because I'm not gonna tell you guys how I did it, but it's like, how in the fuck do you get a hold of the guys who are working 14 hours per day? You can't like cold call them. How do you get a hold of them? Like, how do you reach them? And I guess I can fucking say, because it doesn't matter now, late at night, that's like the key, right?
Yep.
I mean, it's 25 years ago. So my idea was to bring all you guys together so I could figure out, like, how in the fuck do I find like other U's?
Yeah.
And other U's and other U's. And we kind of figured it all out. But aside from all this, oh my God, where I don't know which story to go with first. I'll go with the ones that are less.
That's what I'm waiting, is what story you're going to tell, because
we're going out to dinner and I'm walking down the steps and Joe's behind me and Alan's behind me, and Jason may have been back there too. And they're all laughing, right? Because when I walked down the steps, it was one step at a time. One step at a time. And obviously they just want to run down the steps. So one of you guys comes up with this idea to take me through fucking what the hell was that? Some mobility.
Alwyn did some assessment on you or some,
Yeah,
we did
functional
like a
movement screen.
Yes, the functional movement. We did a little dynamic mobility and then
Yeah.
the functional movement
Yeah.
screen.
I failed
Went
after
very
3.
well.
Yeah, I failed after 3 tests. And then it was this, I don't want to say it was an intervention because it was more just like laughing, but it was kind of like, dude, you need to do something because this is bad, right? God, there's so many. The funny, I guess probably the funniest one was when, because, you know, I don't know shit about the Jersey Shore. I'm thinking it's going to be like Myrtle Beach, right? The beach is nothing like Myrtle Beach.
And that's pre-Jersey Shore TV show too. That's the thing.
And so we go out that night to whatever the nightclub was, and there's fucking Guidos, like real Guidos. I knew what a Guido was supposed to be, but I didn't ever really see one in real life.
Saw one in the wild, live and in living color.
And we're trying to get through. We walk in this club, and Al and I are immediately like, we got to get to the fucking back patio. Like, fuck this. You know, and Jason's like, he wants to go straight to the dance floor and shit.
Get his glow sticks.
We're like, we just need to get to, so we it takes like an hour to get all the way to the back, right? And then I see that you can go down 3 steps and there's the beach and then you can just leave.
Yep.
And the fucking bouncer wouldn't let us. And Alan's like, I'll kick that motherfucker in the face. And then then we realized that Wendler's nowhere to be found. Nowhere. And I was like, well, where the hell's Jim? Like, nobody knows where Jim is. So I call him. And I'm like, where the hell are you? He's like, man, I'm back in the rental thing. I'm got an ice cream cone. And he just he saw the line, turned around and went back, and we never even knew it.
He knew it wasn't his kind of place.
It was like, you know what, he's a genius for doing this whole thing.
That he was.
Oh God, there's other things I'm not going to bring up on the podcast, but
Oh,
it was
my God.
funnier than. And then my intro, because I'm thinking as we go there, like, it's a beach. It's going to be like Myrtle Beach, man. We get there and the fucking rental place is like shittier than when I stayed in when I was in college, like the wooden furniture,
The little
with
one, yep.
burlap cushions.
Yeah.
You know, and it just stunk like shit.
That's what every house down there. Well, there's very nice areas of the Jersey Shore, not the area we were in. Kept it real. Keeping it real.
No, but it's. I guess, let me just flip that around to say that one thing, you know, as we become older and we look at the younger generation and say shit about them that the older generation was saying about us, so I do understand that, is that power of networking, of just, and there's a lot of funny stories there that there's a lot of them that we could sit there and talk about, but just getting together is a huge thing.
Yes.
Right? Because then you get like the real aspects of,
Yes.
you know, what are you trying to do? How can I help with what you're trying to do?
And there's not, I mean, you don't see that with the freaking phones. And again, sound like the old guys with this internet thing. While it does have a lot of positive aspects to it with connecting and all, you can't be in person, real connection and time spent.
No, but things like your cert help with that, right? Because then you can build that connection. Things like Swiss, you know, help with that. At least it starts it. To where it can expand from there. And granted, I know there's text messaging and DMs and all this other stuff, and maybe for some people that works as well. I don't know. I don't think so.
It's not the same for me either. That's why I love the cert, because I am someone that I'll, again, back to what we started talking about, I'll get engrossed in my life and world, and between work and then having kids, like just the days, the weeks, they go by so fast. But at least hosting a certification a couple times a year forces me to get out and meet people and do things like this and speaking at seminars. I was so happy when I heard you and Ken brought Swiss back, because those are some of the best times I've had. But yeah, if like you don't have things like that, don't go to things like that. It's just not, you could say, well, I stay in touch via text. I stay in touch on Instagram, DM. It's not the same than being in person, meeting people. That's the best part. When people were asking me about Swiss, I said the presentations are awesome. The lineup is amazing, but you're going to get the most out of after the presentation in the hallway, in the hotel lobby, because you get to talk shop and ask the questions that don't get asked online and really get to know the person. You just can't, you can't duplicate that through a YouTube video, through a text message. It's impossible.
You know what? And looking back, and this just now came to me. There's only a short window that you really have to actually really do it, right? Because you get older, you have kids, and you say you have your own business. I mean, we're working 60, 80 hours a week. Then there's kids and there's family. It's fucking hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to get maybe once or twice a year, but go back to when you were younger. You know, how many places were you going? I mean, for a while there, it was at least once a month, if not more. You were going everywhere.
Oh yeah, my first weekend after I graduated college in '97. Literally the next weekend, I drove to Connecticut and took my NASM certification. They had the the advanced level NASM personal trainer certification. I don't know if it's different now, but at the time, it was like a 4-day course. Then you took the test on the 5th day. So it was like a Monday through Friday. Took the test on Friday. Drove from Connecticut to Boston. Took the CSCS on Saturday. Drove back to New Jersey Sunday, and then the next weekend was one of those force training seminars. We're talking about me and Martin take the drive to Ohio to do that. Like that was my first 2 weeks within graduating college. It was 2 certifications, seminar. Then I went to a Charles Poliquin seminar the following week at the WWE headquarters. It was constantly trying to go and meet with coaches, meet with other trainers in person. And it was harder to find too. Like, I don't even remember how we found out about these things. I think the Poliquin one might've been like a letter I got in the mail. I was on some mailing list from something I bought. So I got that and that's where I met guys. But to the crew that you just mentioned, like Jay, Alan Cosgrove, those guys I met at, and we're still friends and close to this day. I met at all those different seminars. If I never went to those things in person, I wouldn't have those relationships and those connections today.
Yes, and after I graduated, it was kind of the same thing. I mean, the club I was working at was kind of help us offset some of the costs, but I was going to shit the SAQ things. I mean, I'm a fat.
Yeah, you went to one of them.
I'm going to all these different things, but I meet different people there.
Yeah.
You learn different things, but I couldn't have done that after my kids were born.
No.
I couldn't have. There's a window. Thinking back, thank God I did.
Yeah.
Right? Because if I would have missed that window, how do you make that up?
Yep.
And especially from the net where, I mean, we're talking now when we met fucking 4 decades ago, whatever
Crazy.
it was, so long ago, and I think that's important.
Very.
I think it's very important when you look back from the business side. Tell me about a time when you thought for sure it was over, that you weren't going to come out of it. Because you talked a little bit about not being able to pay the bills, but
it was very brief. But I can't say I ever thought it was over, but I thought like, oh shit, this could hurt. I had in the storage closet, my first 2 trainers who were my best friends in high school started working with me. We moved out. That was like the last year in the storage closet, move out, have the first gym that I could kind of call my own, 2,000 square feet. Things are going really well, getting more clients. Now I'm doing more like seminar. Now that I had 2 guys working with me, I wasn't doing all the training myself. I was able to do perfect segue, exactly what you're talking about, going to seminars, traveling, meeting with other coaches, just kind of developing the name and the brand and myself so I could bring back the training and just keep, elevating the program. Cause at that point my income was solely the gym and training. Not to get into all the details, they wanted like 50% of the business we had a disagreement and they just pack up, no warning or anything. They kind of join forces, pack up, leave, and open up their own gym down the street. Now I'm in my gym by myself with no trainers overnight, with like no time to think. I always knew, like at that point I had worked 5 years at Parisi, so I had 5 years experience and then another 4 years on my own. So I have 9 years in the game, and I was very confident that I would get out of it, and I had 100 resumes at that point. Everyone wanted to work there, but holding a high standard and not just wanting to hire anyone, but I also have now 30 clients that need trainers, and also the obviously, no matter how good the reputation of the gym is, those two guys develop, relationships with those clients, and a lot of them left. And it was at the same time I just reinvested. You guys came, you were involved in that, because you just had come out with the collegiate power racks. I sold my old ones and bought 3 new collegiate rack, and just I did like a $30,000 upgrade, which was a ton of money for me. That was almost like everything I had at that time. I just reinvested into this new gym. And now, while the equipment didn't even arrive yet, while it's like in transit, and I'm getting that credit card bill, I lose my only 2 employees. So that was like, oh shit, this could go south real fast. But if I'm being honest, was it a little bit, was I a little nervous? Of course, but I did have the confidence, like, no, like, screw this, I'm gonna freaking. I'll be fine. Like, I've been doing this too long. I work too hard. Nobody's going to outwork me. And it was back to what we talked about at the beginning, a little bit of anxiety. How do we alleviate that? Action. Get to work and do what you do. And, a couple years later, they went out of business, and we hit a little fork in the road, a little roadblock, but we got through it after a couple months, and the business exploded, from there, and got even better. But that was definitely losing your only 2 employees who were training the majority of people in the gym overnight, like just showing up to work and they're not there. That was a rough patch.
Aside from that issue, that was a really, really good time for you to do that upgrade, right? Because the difference, and people would have to see the pictures to really know the difference just from the brand. I mean, you went from like a training center to kind of looking like a mini university weight room. So with those people that have a training center, that's also the first impression. So that's the difference between, charging $10 for a session or 30. And that looked great.
It looked awesome.
And that helps, but it's the shit. Like I said, the timing was right for that, but wrong for that other piece. But because I do think a lot of people that you did it right. Like, you went with the bare minimum of what you needed. You expanded that bare minimum until it got to this threshold. And then, bam, then you hit it right, which gave you a jump in perspective. With internally with the brand, right? Externally with the brand, because it's a worldwide brand. What were some of the pivot points, or some of the things that helped jump your brand identity worldwide?
I definitely, I'll answer that, but I just want to, do you remember you actually, one of the things I'll put "I" in air quotes, I did right, but it was on your advice, and I still give it to this day. I say, start small and grow slow. And, I started as small as you could get, a literal storage closet with 3 pieces of equipment. And I was about to move out year 2, because we had hours where the gym was packed, the closet was packed, and I was at those hours. It was, I got to get out of here. This is too small. We're outgrowing it. I actually called you and asked for your advice, and I'll never forget it, because I called you. It was in the morning, because most of my it was all high school and college kids. So my day was like 3 to 10 p.m. So I called you in the morning, and I was like, "Man, Dave, my gym's packed. Like, what do you think? I have an opportunity to move into 2,500, 2,000 square foot facility. Should I do it?" And you said, "Sounds pretty quiet over there right now." You said your gym's packed all the time. And I was like, "Well, it's not packed right now, but at 3 o'clock, it's really packed." And, we had a conversation, but your point was, wait until it is busting at the seams. Every hour you're open, not just for 3 or 4, then go. Better to wait a little bit too long. And that was the best advice I ever got, because the jump from the 2,000 square foot to the 5,000, while it ended up working out, that first year, it was brutal. And I wish I would have waited a little bit longer. It worked out, but and so people know it's not like it's not parallel either. In other words, I doubled the size of the facility, but it was my expenses way more than doubled. It wasn't just like, oh, times it by 2. And like,
that's never the case.
No, triple, quadruple as far as the expenses, and then hiring new trainers, and just the more, the bigger facility just caused more issues, and you need more people, which potentially could be great, but could potentially cause more problems with trainers. And it was just, that was a 2,000 to 5,000 square feet was a big jump, and I should have taken your advice from the storage closet to the 2,000. I jumped a little bit too soon. So any young trainers or gym owners, start smaller than you think and stay in that facility longer than you think. Save up money and don't go until you have to. You're busting at the seams, and people start complaining about it. Then go
and realize every jump that you make, you're going to become less of a trainer and more of a business person.
100%. Yeah.
And know that, right?
Yeah.
Because I think a lot don't. Then they make that jump and like, fuck, all I'm doing now is managing people.
100%. Yeah.
And that's not what you wanted. That's not what you signed up
hence
to do.
how, not to get off track, but how my business is full circle. I'm way happier now because I'm mostly doing things that I enjoy, but this is where, perception, it used to bother me because in my head, I used to care too much about what other people thought. In my brain, it was DeFranco's went from storage closet to 2,000 to 5,000 to world-renowned brand. Now he's back in a 1,000 square foot, kind of private little facility that it's basically like the storage closet, but a little bit bigger. Mm-hmm. But it's because when I was in that 5,000 square foot facility, exactly what you just said is exactly what happened. I was still doing training sessions, but my brain, I wasn't in it 110% like I was in the storage closet. I'm training like a bunch of NFL athletes, and my brain is going to the lawsuit that we got from the guy who slipped in the parking lot, and the freaking leak in the roof, and the trainer who, wants health insurance, and it's like all those things. And the second you walk into the gym, everybody's trying to grab your ear because they just need you for 2 seconds, and 20 people want to talk to you for 2 seconds, but it's never 2 seconds. And that's exactly what happened. And it crushed me because I loved that gym. But I'm like, I have my dream facility, and I'm not doing in the dream facility what my passion is, which is coaching and training. I'm doing everything else but that. So I went full circle, and now I have a smaller facility with one coach, and it's way more manageable. And when I'm in there, I could coach and I could do the things I love to do without all the headaches that having a bigger gym has. And
but you're helping more people.
And yes, and I'm, because thankful, that's the good aspect of the online thing. Now, when I do my podcast, instead of training just 5 people in 1 hour, we could have this conversation and freaking 10 million could listen to it and benefit from it. Or our certification, we have coaches that each coach trains 50 to 100 people, and then it's infinite the amount of people we reach now. So that's
when we spoke years back, when you were just in the beginning of the certification, I don't think you were really grasping that each one of these coaches that you certify become like a you, right? Because you're like, man, I want to help all these athletes, but at your max, you're helping 100?
Yeah.
And now each one of these coaches can help 100, and there's how many coaches, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh shit. But this is what the people that do what you do and what I do, you don't get the accolades.
Yeah.
Right. And when you're in the gym, right, you can see it, right? When it's all online, actually most of what we see, to be honest, is criticism. It really is.
No, it is.
It is.
Totally.
So we end up in this fucked up, warped world, where keeping the little group like you have kind of keeps that reality in. Yeah. Because you start thinking, what the fuck is the point? Because you don't think you're really reaching or helping anybody because you don't really see it like you did when you were training people, right? So it's something I have to pause on every now and again.
It is a very good point, though. But again, it is, man, I remember you saying that too, like me saying, I want to help. I love training athletes and helping more athletes. And thinking about it now, it's so simple, but I didn't grasp it at the time. The point of you want to help the most amount of athletes, help the coaches that train those athletes. Now you're going to make a difference as opposed to just 5 that walk into your gym a couple hours each day.
But you really don't. That's true. Like, we understand it's true, but you don't feel it the same.
No, it's different again in that sense. But as you get older, it is different, but it is nice. It's very cool to see, a coach in another country, and not that I want or need any of the credit, but you impacted that coach, and you see some of the things that you taught them being implemented with this athlete who just, got an Olympic medal or won the Super Bowl like that. It's still pretty fulfilling and pretty cool. Not the same as when it's in your gym, but I've gotten to the point where that's kind of my new, those are the story. And we get stories, get DMs and text messages and phone calls like that every day. Oh, I had this athlete that I used, the stuff I learned at the CERT with this athlete or this team, and they just won the state championship or this. It still feels good. It's a little different, but it's still pretty cool knowing that you're making this global impact rather than just the few athletes that could come to New Jersey and personally train with you.
Well, it also answers the questions for the younger coaches and the younger trainers that are out there, because the question, like I always had, I'm sure you did too, I was like, am I going to be doing this shit when I'm fucking 60 years old? Where the answer is, yes, there are some, not very many, but the real answer is get really, really fucking good at what you do.
Yeah.
The best you can get at what you do, so then you can teach others the way that you're doing, and then that's what you'll be doing when you're that age.
Yeah.
But you better get really, really fucking good at what you do.
And that's the
part. In other
part.
words, you have nothing to teach.
Yes. And people want to skip that part, unfortunately. Yes. Like, we're talking now, and yes, we've gotten to that point. I still, have that white belt mentality where I'm constantly trying to learn and get better. I feel the more I know, it's like the more you feel like you know nothing. It's the more people you talk to, it's just, but I like that. But it's, where was I going with this now? The
white belt mentality, learning, because it is true though, because you can't rest on what you know.
Oh yeah, that's what I was. See, that we're getting old.
Yeah.
That was the point I was gonna make. Is it? I wouldn't even consider myself there because I'm still learning. But we've 25 years in coaching, and I'm at that point where we're coaching other coaches and then seeing those results. So when a 22-year-old hears this and says like, well, yeah, that's what I want to do, just know that it didn't happen in 3 years or even 5 years. Like, I'm not saying you need a full 25, but man, to get really good at something, because here we are with 5 decades, 6 decades combined, and we're not saying we know it all. It's like it takes really long.
I'm going to say it's going to take a lot longer than what people think, right?
Let's just put it that way, yes.
Yeah, I mean, you do have to get to the point where you start looking at it and you start thinking, I don't know shit. But it's like a bell curve. I've tried to explain this several times before, because we start not knowing shit. Then we were like, read the Weeder magazines, right? And you learn the 25 Weeder principles or whatever it is. Then you think you know everything.
Yeah, you got it.
Right? You know it all. And then as we learn more and more and more, and we stumble across physical therapy terms and stuff like that, we start coming up this hill where you think you really know your shit. Right? Then at the peak of the hill, you know fucking everything. You're the genius. Everybody needs to come to you. And then you start going down the other side. Yeah. Right? Then you go down the other side, you're like, man, I don't know. Fuck. And then you end up right back down here like, every answer depends.
That was like the 10 to 12, 10 to 15 year mark. For me personally, I had that. I always consider myself a somewhat humble guy, but like in my mind, it was there's no question I can't answer. Nobody I can't help. And now year 25 at 36 of training myself, now I'm at that shit. I don't know anything. Like, I got so much more to learn. That's how it worked for me. It's, know just enough where you feel like you know everything, and then it's like you really start meeting some brilliant, intelligent, coaches with experience, and you go, oh shit, I don't know anything. You can
funny. Plot people on that. Like if you talk to them long enough, you're like, okay, you're there.
Yeah, you're right here. Yep.
Okay, you're way over here. It's like, oh, you're about ready to come here. Cause it's not like we haven't seen this shit so many times over and over and over with that.
So true.
Going back to your brand though, what are some of the things that you did? Because there's a lot of people we talked earlier about, they want to be Insta famous and all this other shit. So we're just going to appease them for a minute, right? Because your brand, and same thing happened with my brand, grew bigger than what the financial reward of that brand is. What were some of the things that you thought were pivotal in being able to get the brand name out?
So I think it's perfect timing for this question, because the foundation before which enabled it to get out with the things I'll talk about is the fact that I was so engrossed, so tunnel vision in just living in the gym and training and getting results with my clients. Like, I had no life. I didn't, like I said, no vacations. It was just 10 years before most people knew who I was. So like so one of the things is the my Ask Joe Q&A when the internet became a thing. That was, while I was kind of just bursting on the scene, so to speak. That's 2003, 2004, but I had already had 6 years, 7 years, which is still nothing, but that first year, so to speak, where people are like, oh, this guy's got some pretty good advice or whatever, that's year 6 or 7 of me. I mean, when I tell you 7 days a week, 12, 15 hours a day, it's not exaggerating at all, just total obsession. So the foundation is exactly what Dave just said. Be obsessed and get really, really good at what you do, and don't worry about being Insta famous. Or you want to be Insta famous, my advice would be get really, really good in your hometown. And in this industry of personal training and coaching, be the best damn trainer coach in your area that everyone's coming to, everybody's talking about, because you are just over delivering and doing the best possible job of anyone in your area. Then when you have something that valuable to share, which you don't day one, you could argue you don't, year 5 or 10 either, but being realistic, you're not going to wait that long. So 5+ years of just nobody knows who you are, in the trenches, so to speak, getting great results. Then for me, then expanding online and being okay with sharing advice. 'Cause we're talking about that now, but me and Martin used to butt heads with Bill Parisi way back in the day about this, because me and him were the ones obsessed with going to seminars, meeting guys like you. But then he would want us to come back and present it to the other trainers. And I feel like a dick now even talking about it, but we were like, screw that. We went and we paid the money and we spent the hours and we drove 10 hours to Ohio. Why should I share that with the other trainers? They're not as dedicated as we are. So I went through that period, and I would say step 1 was sharing, not holding anything back, sharing information for free online. I was originally, when I first started my website in 2003, the guy who designed my website kind of helped me. It was somewhat of a business kind of consult and mentor to me. He was like, don't you dare do this Q&A. It's got to be behind a paywall. I didn't even know what a paywall was at that point, but he's like, I can make part of your website where they have to pay. They can't have that for free. We butted heads with that, and I ended up, going with my gut, which is I'm going to give that away for free. And that turned out to be a pivotal moment, because fast forward, this is another valuable lesson. 2003 to 2005, I do Ask Joe, and I spoke about this at one of the elite seminars or summits. I'm doing the Q&A. I answered a question on like shoulder mobility or a warm up for your shoulder after coming off, like, if I don't even know what it was, but something about shoulder health and mobility in 2000 and somewhere between 2003 and 2005. In 2011, Triple H tears his bicep tendon, has surgery, is Googling, athlete training and how to train more like an athlete and functional training and all these terms. My old Ask Joe blog pops up. He ends up like studying all my old Q&As for 6 months prior to ever calling me. He's searching people online because he knew he wanted to bring in like more of a strength and conditioning coach than a bodybuilding style trainer. And because I put all that information out for free, which I was told not to at the time, with 2003 to 2008 years later, he ends up seeing that and tried a bunch of the advice that I was giving. I don't know specifically the things he tried, but when he called me, he just said, holy shit, I researched a bunch of coaches. I've been reading your old Ask Joe Q&A blogs, and I implemented some of the advice that you gave, and every single thing I tried of yours has worked well for me. I'd love to hire you to be my, in-person trainer. And that was 11 years ago, and I'm still going there to this day. That changed the course of my business, because then I got the consulting gig with the WWE. They let us teach the CERT at their performance center. That opened up a whole bunch of other doors, but that all started with putting content online for free and good. Like, everybody puts shit online now. I think putting, like, really not holding back, putting the good stuff out there. That was the first pivotal moment that I didn't capitalize right away, but 10 years later, it changed the course of my business and enabled me to shut the big gym down and kind of downsize and go back to doing what I love. Because now I had 1 or 2 clients that I could train, as opposed to, having to work 5 different hours training, 25 people to make that, that same type of revenue. So that was huge. YouTube, I joke that I should have stuck with it, but in the beginning, that YouTube is what started bringing athletes from other states and other countries to the gym. That kind of made it like a destination where guys were flying in from England and California and Canada. Like, it was just insane, where people started coming from all over the country. When I would ask them, how the hell did you find out about me? At that point, it was all YouTube. That was very big. And then the YouTube led to the documentary, the Strong documentary, which the producer of that found me through YouTube, came and visited the gym, got to know a couple of the athletes, and was like, damn, this place is more than just like some cool visual training shit. There's some pretty cool stories here once you get to know a lot of these athletes. Ends up doing the Strong documentary. That kind of, puts us more on that global brand level. And then that led to, like, Men's Health naming the gym one of the top 10 in the country, and Muscle and Fitness and all those type of accolades followed after that. That would be the first 3 things that kind of pop in my head, that went from really badass gym in New Jersey to like this kind of global brand where people are flying in to just take a picture and come train there and stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly how I wanted you to answer that, because there's the breadcrumbs. Like, you follow the breadcrumbs, right? And what the initial ones are, there's a lot, where it's, people will see 531 and think of gym, right? And they have no idea at this point. He answered over 500,000 Q&As on our site.
That's crazy.
Before the book was even done, and it's those things, though. It's building those hidden relation, whatever it is, building those breadcrumbs that be able to lay that foundation for, those things. It might even be 1 million, to be honest with you. I mean,
really?
there's a lot. There's a fuck ton.
That's crazy.
I'd have to go look at it. You had like 400, not 400. It was just like 100,000. I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot, because you're sitting there tapping them out.
I mean, there was I feel like a couple year period where I would get home from the gym. That was the first thing I do before I check my own email. Go on the Elite, Q&A, answer a couple questions. I really enjoyed that. So I guess it builds up. You do. It
adds up.
4 or 5 a day, every day for a couple of years. It's a lot of questions.
The cool thing about that, thinking back, was it wasn't a forum. That was kind of my whole thing. Is I went here's the question, here's the answer, you're done.
No disputing, no bullshit.
This is what it is. This is what they're doing. Fuck it, it is what it is. And then kind of go from there. If you could go, this is another one of these questions I hate, but I'm interested because of the experience and the time that you've been in it, so it makes sense. If you could go back, would you have pivoted to what you're doing now sooner?
No, I think I could have, but I'm the old, if you could go back and do it over, maybe it'd be different if you could go back knowing what you know and do it over. But since you can't, and I don't, and just looking back, I could have, but I'm happy I did it the way I did it, because while it was time for me, what I talked about, my situation with my family and my twins and wanting to spend more time with them. I also I genuinely loved like every gym that I had. The storage closet was its own like unique coolness. And then the second gym, that was the first one that I could call my own. It wasn't renting space out of someone else's. And then the 5,000 square foot was, for me, that's my ultimate dream facility. I wouldn't want bigger. Like that was my dream facility. So, and you know, we're only in there 5 years. So I did get to the point where I wasn't, you know, my brain was all over the place because as we spoke about, it was a lot of other stuff other than training, but they're all like good memories, and it was all added experience that I got that is now helping me do what I do now, which is coaching other coaches, training other trainers, the experiences and the groups and the people that I worked with in that gym. I'm glad I wouldn't have wanted to do it for any less time. Like that 5 years we had there, it was very enjoyable. So I think I kind of made the move. Could have made it earlier, but I'm glad I did it when I did it.
Are there any questions that you wish I would have asked that I didn't ask? Like any things you came prepared, like, man, I really want to talk about this.
No, I think we could. I'm glad we talked about kind of because I saw a lot of, the questions I get the most is like how your training's changed now that you're older, surgeries, all that stuff. So I'm glad we did get a chance to touch upon that. I think I'm a little shot too after almost missing my flight and coming right here. So I'll probably think of things right after we get done. I'll think of 10
That's
things.
fine.
But right now I think nothing's coming to mind.
All right, how can people reach you?
On Instagram is where I'm most active, social media wise. It's at DeFranco's Gym. My podcast, The Industrial Strength Show, I do a new show every Thursday. You could check that out on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and Amazon Music. And then our certification, you could find at CPPS, the Certified Physical Preparation Specialist, cppscoaches.com. The cert is fully online, so if you can't make it to an in-person, that is fine. The in-person practical aspect, which we're actually teaching here at Elite tomorrow, that is optional at this point. Just with all the travel stuff, we decided we recommend it, but if you can't come in person, you could take the full course online. The test is, we pride it on being the most practical certification in the industry, so you do have to send videos of training and assessing a client, but you could do that online and post the videos on a private YouTube, on your YouTube or our YouTube, unlisted, and if you can't make it in person, you can still get fully certified. So cppscoaches.com.
All right, I want to thank you for coming out, and thank you guys for watching. We're done.